iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Hello everybody, welcome to another week of Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series here on SimSpeed TV. It's week 6 of the 12-week long season, and we're at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps because the Spa 24 is happening this weekend, and really looking forward to seeing how the drivers tackle this track for 40 minutes in the sunset going into night. We're broadcasting the top split here at SimSpeed TV, and it's looking like a very competitive field out there. So let's see how the drivers go around Spa, which has the new 4-wheel off-track detection system implemented at a few of its corners since the most recent build. I'm Reese Gardner. Alongside me in the commentary box is Bradley Wingard once again. And Brad, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, one of the best circuits in the world here in Belgium, and a perfect place for some GT racing too.
Hey Reese, that's exactly it. It's like you said, it's the prelude to the Spa 24 hours. It starts in a little over 2 hours. Very competitive group, lots of drivers trying to get their last minute practice in. So I'm very much looking forward to what they give us this week, because it just seems to get better and better. Now we're at a world-class racetrack, so I can't wait.
Neither can I. In the Liège region of Belgium is where Spa-Francorchamps is, in the countryside. It's been around since the early 1920s, this circuit. You can see going off into the distance the old layout of the circuit after turns 7 and 8, Le Combe, and then back on after Courbe Paul Frère at turn 16. But this place has been around for basically 100 years now, so it's got a lot of history to speak of. It's been modified extensively over the years. That infield section from Malmedy to Stavelot, introduced in the late 1970s, and the bus stop chicane at turns 19 and 20, dating from 2007. This track's just over 7 kilometers in length. It's one of the longest of the Formula One circuits around the world, and turns 3 and 4 of Eau Rouge and Radillon certainly put the hairs on your chest, no matter what gender you may identify as. Either way, Spa-Francorchamps, a huge challenge for these drivers with very strict off-track rules in qualifying, and the drivers are out there at the moment getting their 2 laps in to set their times for the grid. We got Ben Cornett in this session for Team Redline. Ben, one of the longest serving Australian sim racers. He's been around since the Grand Prix Legends era and been with Team Redline for the vast majority of sim racing's existence, making his way around in his Mercedes, which seems to be a pretty popular car choice here at Spa. We do have Maxime Tillineuve in the Ford GT, which is a very interesting car choice. We've seen a couple of drivers take to this good old horse in the last couple of rounds. So, it'll be interesting to see what Maxime can do with this car, because he's car number 1. He has the highest I rating in the session, so you'd expect that he'll be the fastest in qualifying.
Yeah, like you said, a lot more people are trying to drive the Ford. I don't know if they're trying to get their last legs in, if it gets removed as we get this new influx of GT3 cars that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 weeks. But it sounds good, and you can't really miss it when it's out on track. It's not quite the rumbling V8 of the Mercedes-AMG, and it's not quite like the scream of the Audi R8, but that sweet spot in between is so nice.
Yeah, that slightly lower capacity American V8 engine making its way through Blanchimont. Very difficult turn, but Maxime, I think, keeps it within the track limits there and brakes all the way down to the bus stop chicane. Very difficult sequence of turns to get right. You've got those sausage curves on the inside that really unsettle the car, but a straight line exit brings Maxime over the line. It's going to be a 2-minute 17.188 for the first time, and that puts him into 4th. Ben Cornett is currently the fastest car in the session, 2 minutes 16.5. He is shadowed by Hugo Molina on a 2:16.6. Only 400ths there, covering the top 2 as it stands. Let's see what one of our Lamborghini drivers can do. Fabio Unvadrus making his way into the final couple of corners now in car number 2. Second highest I rating in the session, using all of that AstroTurf on the exit. Across the line he comes, and it's a 2:16.07. That puts him straight to the top, 5/10 ahead of Ben Cornett. Fantastic lap there from Fabio.
Yeah, the four-wheel off tracks have made this track so much nicer to drive around. As you can see, Fabio using all of the exit at La Source and probably all the inside at Radillon, and it just gains so much time over this time last year when we were here.
Absolutely. You see these cars running lines very similar to what they do in real life now, which is awesome to see. Mitchell McLeod in car number 8. One of the other Australians in this field, yet to set a time so far. Let's see how well he can do as he comes into the final couple of corners. It's a very heavy braking zone here for the bus stop. One of the prime overtaking opportunities on the circuit. There's also a place where you can really get it wrong. If you mess up your braking, you're going straight off that over that grass. And that is 2 minutes 17.6 for Mitchell McLeod, and that puts him, well, it actually looks like that time hasn't counted for Mitch, so he has managed to get himself an off-track somewhere along there. Sashai Nathan-Cunyon, that we've seen racing at Snetterton last week, 2 minutes 16.8 for him, and that puts him into the top 5. A good lap there from him. A BMW, Kenny Byrol. 2 minutes 17.4 is his previous quickest time. What's he going to do this time?
Smooth right out of the bus stop, not using all the AstroTurf like we've seen some other drivers do. 17.2 is not bad, sits him in 9th place so far. Good lap. I don't know if that was his last lap, so that's him done for qualifying.
It is indeed, and Maxime Tillineuve has also run his final lap. Sidre Miro Ferre, who we've seen a couple of times in this series, 2 minutes 17.5 across the line for him, and 18th position so far And with very little time here left in the qualifying session, there's not much opportunity for drivers to improve, but Fabio Unvadrus is committing to the rest of this lap. Current pole sitter. Let's see if he can improve on that time. He cannot, but he'll certainly be happy with that pole time, 5/10 ahead of the nearest competitor. Can Ben Cornett do anything to keep his that front row, or even go to pole position? 2 minutes 16:056 there for Ben Cornett. Oh, but it looks like it hasn't counted. That is a big shame there for the Australian. That means that he's committed there to that second place starting spot. That would have been a mega lap if he hadn't gotten off track somewhere along the way. But the time is at 0, and we can go through the starting grid. It's Fabio Unvadrus, by 5/10 over Ben Cornett. And it's Hugo Molina and Didier Brobel there on the second row. Maxime Tillineuve and Marius Holitikis make up the top 6. Then we move on to Sasha Nathakunion and Jerome Sauve, with Bernardo Feira and Andre Heinrich rounding out the top 10. The top 12 rounded out by Stefan Kurzman and Kenny Birol.
Sejong Park and Juan Philip Metzger take out 13th and 14th. Marcus Meiseth and David Contas in row 8. Tom Week and Max Rebensteiner in 17th and 18th. Philip Stritter and Isidre Mirferre round out the top 20.
And then you got Andrew Charles with Cedric Krolchik there on row 11. Mustafa Mezraoui with Mitchell McLeod rounding out the top 24. Those last two drivers there not setting times. Neither did Myrtle Cheyenne, Matthew Thomas and Andy Kramer, who make up our 27-car grid here for the race at Spa-Francorchamps. Now, as you can see, the sun is setting. It's close to 9:45 p.m. in sim time, so that means that we're going to be racing likely into the dark. And these drivers, they've got a bit more to deal with here in terms of changing conditions. The track is going to get cooler as the race goes on. It's currently at 22 degrees, which means that they're going to have what feels like a lot of grip available to them, but the car will turn on a knife edge if they go over those limits.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And unlike tracks like Daytona that run for 24 hours, Spa only has lighting in really the pit section. So going up Eau Rouge Rally in the dark is, like you said, it'll put hair on your chest. And still only 40-minute race, but because of the size of Spa, it's only going to be 17, maybe 18 laps. Fuel will last 12. So even though the pit limit is the same, it's very short. And with an extended pit lane here, which is, 2 full Grand Prix pits combined for the 24-hour race, it costs a long time to make that lane transition. So, like Imola last week, we might see some pit strategy come into this race.
Indeed. With the length of that pit lane here at Spa, very good point that you raised there, Brad. The drivers will be thinking about that. It's a very long trip through the pits. If you make any mistakes during your stop, you are going to lose a ton of time that you won't be able to get back. So, away we go. They'll go through the bus stop chicane and La Source, because the start-finish line is on the run down to Eau Rouge and Radion on the endurance layout. It's the old place where the start-finish line used to be when the track first opened. Can't wait to get this race off and going. Fabio Unvadrus is going to keep here at pace car speed, because the pace car has entered the pits, but this is not the start-finish straight, and I'm sure that all the drivers are going to be well aware of that on their way down to the first couple of turns at the bottom of the hill. So Fabio, his main goal here, I think, will be to go early out of La Source and get the jump here on Ben Cornett, because he'll see how close Cornett got to shadowing him in qualifying, and he has gone early. Cornett went wide there out of La Source, which means he's already lost second place to his fellow Lamborghini of Hugo Molina, and they are off to a start here at Spa-Francorchamps. Into the first couple of turns they go, Eau Rouge and Radion, and it's Unvadrus leading the way from Molina, Cornett. Then you've got a gap back to Maxime Tillineuve, Didier Brobel, Marius Holitikis, and it looks like we might be going 3 wide here, because Sasha Nathakunion is sandwiched in between Jerome Salve and Bernardo Feira. Feira trying to get on the brakes later, but It's Nathan Cunyon who wins the braking zone battle at the very least, tries to hold on around the Mercedes of Sauve at Lecombe, and away he goes. Beautiful move there done, and there's been some contact there. Into the wall goes Bernardo Feira. Manages to keep it mostly out of the wall though, and gets back onto the track nice and safely. Already some chaos there happening on the first lap, but this is the sector where things really go, and we got a car stopped on the racing line. Marius Holitiks, he spun at the exit of No Name Corner. It looks like everyone avoiding him, though he did take one car with him.
Yeah, for as twisty as that first section of Spa is, we made it through Eau Rouge Radio quite cleanly, and then just came unstuck at No Name. Thankfully, not a whole lot of contact. There was a little bit that we saw, but no one's really had a massive incident yet, which is surprising for an opening like this.
I think we've just seen one, because Jan-Philippe Metzer has come together with Kenny Byrol, and as Byrol re-entered the track, that's put off the two Mercedes of Myrtle Cheyenne, Marcus Mirseth, and Max Rebensteiner. They all come back onto the track, and we've also got a BMW off of Matthew Thomas. So, my goodness, that did not look good. We're going to take a look at this here on the Virtual Racing School replay. Kenny Byrol in the BMW with the Porsche of, I think that's Nathan Cunyon, making his way around the outside and just avoiding making contact. But then the Mercedes behind him thinks, oh, I can get this going. Just pips off Byrol. And then when he gets onto that outside line there's a secondary bit of contact, and Byrol gets sent off into the grass. And trying to get back onto the circuit, well, probably not the best place, as there was more cars going off behind him. The BMWs coming together there. Very unfortunate to see here on the first lap. So we've already got a bunch of drivers out of contention here at Spa. Thomas Week, David Kontos, Philip Stritter, Cedric Krolczyk, Marius Holitiks, Marcus Mirseth, Max Rebensteiner, all losing positions here on the first couple of laps. Didier Brobel has only lost one position to Maxime Tillineuve, and it looks like up front things are looking all right. Fabio Unvadrus weaving down the Kemmel Straight here on the run-up to Lecombe and Malmedy. Let's see what Ben Cornett can do in the draft. Maxime Tillineuve now defending from the BMW of Didier Brobel, who wants to get that place back.
Oh, side by side, further back with Mitch McLeod. Both drivers back to single file now, thankfully. No contact this time round, touch wood again. Very interesting start to the race. The GT3 cars, the BMW and the Mercedes especially being front engine, are very twitchy on cold tyres through a lot of the S's around here. So that contact last lap is unfortunate, but I'm also not overly surprising just because of the natures of the cars. But thankfully not a lot of contact in what was a multi-car incident. So everyone has lost positions from that, but I don't think there's going to be much in the way of straight line loss because there wasn't damage. But we'll see how they go for the rest of the race. Lead starting to pull away.
Yep, starting to. It's pretty similar gaps here between the top five, and they have indeed broken away. Solve and Nathan Cunyon for 6th and 7th. The lead cars of the big pack behind. It's a very long train of cars, all separated by about half a second each. So Nathan Cunyon trying to get one up here on Jerome Salve, and those two battling quite hard on the first lap. No one going for the pits this time around. It's going to be another couple of laps before we see drivers making any moves to go into the pit lane. But Hugo Molina starting to lose a little bit of time to Maxime Tillineuve and Didier Brobel at La Source. But there's not going to be any opportunity here to pass. Coming into Eau Rouge and Radillon, it's very much a single file sequence of corners. You can go side by side through there if you're brave enough, but bravery I think will be in short supply here in the early stages of the race. So who gets the best exit ultimately? It looks like they're all pretty even when it comes to that. Maxime getting a slight draft off of Hugo Molina there. And of course Molina back in third now. Ben Cornett managed to make his way past him on the first lap. Saw a couple of drivers going off there at the top of the hill, but it looks like they've all managed to keep going as a side-by-side between 13th and 14th position. It's Jan-Philippe Metzger and Mitchell McLeod together once again, and Metzger manages to fight off McLeod once more. at Lecombe and Malmedy. The Lamborghini, number 12 of Holly Tix, who was one of the cars to go around there on the first lap, trying to work his way back up.
Yeah, that battle with Mitch McLeod and Metzger was pretty much a copy and paste of last lap as we move slightly further forward, too wide into the S's at the bottom of the hill.
Molina getting absolutely monstered there by Detilly and Brobel. They both managed to get past him there, and we'll go to a virtual racing school replay to see how that all went down. So it was coming into Pouon here, where I think there was a bit of a mistake for Molina. Yes, a little bit of a wiggle there right in the start of the double left-hander of Pouon, a downhill corner where you've got to have maximum commitment, and so he ended up losing time to those two cars. They are now ahead of him, so Maxime up into third place behind Unvadrus and Cornet. Here's Nathacunion, and he's managed to catch up a bit more on Jerome Solve, just up ahead into the bus stop chicane, backs off a little bit under the brakes, no chance of a move into there just yet, but see how well he does on the second phase, the chicane exit. It seems that he's gotten the power down reasonably nicely. Across the Grand Prix start-finish line they go. And let's see what they do out of La Source. A big dip right in the middle of that hairpin, which can unsettle the car if you get on the throttle just a little bit too early. And looks like this might be a matter of drafting up behind the Mercedes and making the move at Lecombe.
Yeah, last week we saw how big the draft on that Mercedes was between the Mercedes and the Lamborghini. Now we're going to see it again. The draft down the Kemmel Straight is just phenomenal, and like you said last lap, going through Eau Rouge Radion too wide is not a brave idea because it ruins your runs just like this, and Nathacunion gets through on the inside, doesn't run wide on exit, which can tend to happen, but he manages to keep it together through the S's. This goes straight defensive. It's been an incident at the exit of Radion, actually.
Oh yes, Murtaugh Cheyenne and one of the BMWs there coming together at the top of the hill. Let's see what happened thanks to Virtual Racing School. Kenny Byrol has gone for a spin on the exit of Malmedy, by the way. So Cheyenne, side by side, through Radion, and away they go. That's heavy into the wall for the BMW of Matthew Thomas. It looks like everyone just managing to avoid that. There was also an incident down at the bus stop chicane here. And is that Mitchell McLeod? I'm not too sure. No, it's Max Rebensteiner. A little bit of contact there in the braking zone, taking to the runoff area, managing to get back on track nice and safely. But a little coming together in the braking zone like that is not what you want.
No, it's a pretty straightforward braking zone, but it's very important for that run up the Grand Prix start-finish straight, and thankfully, because he bounced across the curb after Blanchimont and managed to settle the car just enough, because if you land it with the brakes on and these with the ABS, it's just going to fire over and...
Tilly. Oh, my apologies for talking over you there, Bradley. Tilly had a really big mistake there through the bus stop chicane. He managed to hold on to it amazingly. See what the Radicals Online driver can do to hold off the advances here of Didier Brobel. A little bit wide on the exit there for Maxime, but he manages to get the power down very nicely there in the Ford. On board with Didier, you can see the dash of that BMW up through the rev range in 5th gear as they make their way through Eau Rouge and Radion. The kink up at the top. And down the Kemmel Straight once again. He's all over the back of him. There is Hugo Molina. And it's a great draft for the Lamborghini. He's picking it up off Detilly as well. So let's see if he's ahead before they get to the braking zone. He is indeed. And, well, Brobel has no choice but to get back in line and let the Lamborghini go. Very well executed move there from Hugo Molina.
Yeah, that was really well done. Lots of patience. Just waited and pounced at the right moment. He got the double draft, which was even more beneficial, made a nice clean move. There was no dive bomb or anything, and very well executed. He doesn't need to go defensive into no name, but the run through Pouon might, because he had an incident there last lap, so hopefully for his sake, not again this time.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see. Definitely. It looks like they've managed to all hold on that time, but Tilly Nerva's really gotten a fantastic exit there as He's starting to properly gap them now. He might be safe for now, but remember the very long straights here at this circuit. Tilly has basically no one in front of him. It's still a couple of seconds up the road to Ben Cornette, and it doesn't look like Tilly is going to be able to keep that pace going the way Cornette is, shadowing the back of our leader, Fabio Unbadrus. Looks like Molina's sorted himself out there with Brobble, and we move back to the battle for 6. It's a 4-way fight here between Nathakunyon, Solv, Heinrich and Faria. Brilliant stuff between these drivers. A Porsche versus 3 Mercedes. You'd say it's a battle of the Germans, so I think it's a battle of Stuttgart versus, I forget where Mercedes is located. That's embarrassing, but
Germany.
Still. Well, yes, somewhere in Germany, of course. But into La Source once again, and a little bit of a draw up in the braking zone from Andre Heinrich. Almost gets up the inside of Jerome Salve, maybe gives him a little tap there in the middle of La Source. Slightly unsettles the number 13, but that might be to Heinrich's benefit coming down the Kemmel Straight, on board with him through this magnificent corner. You can just hold it flat in a GT3 car when the tyres are up to temperature and the fuel is light. It's a very challenging corner to get right. Defensive from Jerome Salve. He's following the draft of Sashay Nathakunyon up ahead, and there's not much of a draft there for Andre Heinrich. He's going to have to stay behind for a couple more corners.
Yeah, that tap on the exit of his horse was very beneficial for Nathakunyon, because it gave him just enough of a gap that when the draft kicked in, he still had enough space to spare. I think without the contact at the exit of the corner, he probably would have been in a bit more strife on that lap, but thankfully for his sake, it was just enough of a gap, and I think it didn't help Jerome or Andre with their attempt at a pass either, because they were both obviously slowed down. But the battle continues. They're slowly falling away from the 3, 4 and 5th in front of them, slowly but surely each lap. But if the guys in front keep battling, these guys will be here in a blink of the eye, so that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, certainly will. Speaking of that 3rd, 4th and 5th battle, just up ahead. Oh no, we're going to have to cut away from that because Max Rebensteiner has had another issue there. This time on the exit of No Name Corner on the run down to Pouon. Let's see what happened to him. Again, thanks to Virtual Racing School. Great supporter of us here at SimSpeed TV. So, what's happened to him here? Had the BMW, the number 23 there of Kenny Byrol, making his way past him and flashing the lights and just giving him a little tap through No Name. And oh, he got collected by the Porsche just behind them. That's a huge shame there. And he'll be able to get back going, but he'll be very bruised and very angry as the majority of drivers still avoiding the pits here. But as I was saying, speaking of that 3rd, 4th and 5th battle, you can see that Hugo Molina is starting to catch back up to Maxime Villeneuve. He had a great lap last lap, really pushed on the exit of Pouon and went over the curb, which got him a little unsettled. But after that slight mistake through that corner on, I think it was lap 2, maybe lap 3, he's gotten his mojo back and is drafting onto the back of the Ford as we speak. Middle of the line, middle of the road there for Maxime Villeneuve. Not allowing Molina any place to go around outside or inside, as it's a slight defensive line from the Porsche of Sasha Nathakunyon, but he's compromised his line through Lecombe. Tries to get it done through Malmedy, and it works out for him in his fight with Jerome Salve. Those guys have been going at it most of the race so far. And we're not that far away from half race distance. We have our first few scheduled pit stops on the road. Marius Holitikas and Cedric Krolchik on the road at the moment, and Holitikas in the box. So they'll be the first drivers there to have gone in on lap 7. Seems to be a bit of a narrower pit window here at Spa than we've seen at other tracks, and it'll be interesting to see what the drivers up front do, as out of the pits there comes Marius, and navigating this very interesting pit exit just past Eau Rouge and Radion. You've got to navigate an S-bend up the hill and then come back out onto the Kemmel Straight, and Brad, that's basically a bit of racetrack that you have to navigate, and that's another reason why the endurance pits, getting them right is so important.
Yeah, there's obstacle after obstacle with the endurance pits. Like the Grand Prix pit entrance is difficult enough. And you have that inside of La Source, which is very, he's got a reputation on iRacing for being quite deceiving. And then, yeah, they run up Radion and then shooting straight back out onto the racing line. Cedric Prolix has just come out, and it took him nearly 90 seconds to make a pit stop, which for a 40-minute race, that's a long time to be doing, you know, road street speed limits. Like, that's how big this pit lane is. It's nearly twice as long as Imola last week, and we saw how big that blew the race open. So all of those factors of the Spa pit lane are what's going to potentially make or break races for these guys tonight.
Indeed. We'll have to keep our eye on Holitikis and Krolchik to see what they can do. Max Rebensteiner, my apologies, also in the pits, but he's been in there for about 2 minutes and 18 seconds now. I think he might have actually escaped back to the lane after the incidents that we saw from him. Jerome Sauve and Sashay Nathakunion once again, and that's a great exit from Malmedy for Jerome. Nathakunion going defensive into Bruxelles corner, which is a magnificent cascading downhill hairpin, basically, but very open still. All the way over the AstroTurf they go, and that looks like a mistake there from Sauve. And opening him up now to an attack from Andre Heinrich through Pouon. Nathakunion gets the corner right as we're on board with Heinrich. He will get a draft down the run to Blanchimont if he nails his exit from Stavelot, but a little wide into the Fagnes chicane. Let's see then if he can nail that exit of Stavelot and get the run up the straight using all the curb on the entry there is Jerome Sauve, but it's not helping him that much.
No, it's not. He'll probably be on the... Well, I mean, you can't really go too wide through Blanchimont. If you do, then I think you might have more chest hair than going up Radion 2x2, because it's fast. I think it's faster, but it's also very on the edge of your seat, especially towards that curve. It's a very bumpy curve, but doesn't need to go defensive into the bus stop chicane, which I thought he might. He's closed the gap a little bit to Nathakunion in front. Not by a huge amount, just a little bit. He's still under attack by Heinrich from behind, but he was flashing the light at Nathakunion in the starter sector 2, which I don't know if that was he was angry or he was just trying to throw him off, but he seemed to settle that down now, so we'll see how he is this lap going into La Source.
Indeed we shall, and I think it's been a pretty clean battle so far between Sauve and Nathakunion, so I think it might just be Sauve trying to psych out Nathakunion at that point. Got some close running out of Rouge and Radion. It's Jan-Philippe Metzger with Mitchell McLeod and Mustafa Mizraoui. McLeod going defensive, so Mizraoui taking his preferred racing line into the braking zone, but he's got to give space to McLeod on the inside. They give each other plenty of room in the first part of the corner anyway. Looks like Mizraoui having to back out of that one. McLeod holding it around the outside, but almost on his bumper on the exit. Defensive again from the Australian. So what can Mustafa do in this middle sector of the circuit? Not many opportunities for passing here.
That was a brilliant piece of driving by both drivers. Just enough space. There was a little bit of, a big slide out of no name by McLeod. He's going to have to try and go, well, around the outside of Pouon, which doesn't really work here, but they're going to try anyway. Has to yield the position. But yeah, there was a little bit of contact through the La Source chicane, but other than that, very clean move. Unfortunate exit, and it's going to go for it again around the outside. It comes the inside, but not quite there going into Stavelot.
Not quite. It was, as you said, a very good bit of driving from both of them, giving each other a good amount of respect there, which is what we like to see, especially in this official racing. Molina and Brobel, meanwhile, 4th and 5th. Molina's dropped off the back of Maxime Tillineuve once again. So I think that battle's going to ebb and flow over the course of this race, with Brobel in BMW pressuring very hard under the braking zone. And all of the AstroTurf being used there by Molina to try and get the best exit possible down the Grand Prix start-finish straight. These guys, it seems, have no chance of catching Unvadrus and Cornet unless there's a mistake in the pits. And speaking of pits, we do have a driver on the lane. That's Seojin Park. And he's managed to get himself in there nice and cleanly, as well as Mitchell McLeod. We saw that he was passed there by Mustafa Mazraoui and decided, hey, I'm going to make it into the lane, try and get myself some clean air and undercut him that way. So let's see what they all do in the next couple of laps, because I think the pits are really going to start coming alive here in the last 19 minutes.
Yeah, because of the length of this track, it's, you know, a little bit over 7 kilometers. The fuel window is a bit, you know, a little bit smaller than before. So I think lap 12 is the final lap to pit. So the next 2-3 laps, if they run the full tank, is going to be very, very crazy in pit lane. And some of the guys that pitted earlier, even one lap like pitting now like McLeod has, could make a massive difference with where they finish up at the end of the race. So the next 2 laps are going to be pretty spicy to watch, I reckon.
We just saw Jerome Salve having another go at Sashay Nathakunion, but the same is true for many previous laps. Nathakunion going defensive into Bruxelles and keeping his car ahead. Saab was slightly compromised through No Name, which has allowed Heinrich and Bernardo Faria to get back onto the back of him. So the 3 Mercedes line astern behind the Porsche. And you saw Saab flashing the lights once again. I think he's starting to maybe get a little frustrated now. That Porsche continually just putting up a brick wall to every maneuver that he's trying to make. Nathakunion has done very well to keep it clean, as has Jerome Salve. Battling up the front has been very nice to watch so far. So coming up to the end of the lap once again, do any of these drivers go for the pits? It looks like the top 5 have avoided them for the time being, and most of these guys do, but Andre Heinrich making his way in.
And so the spice begins. When you got someone who's, you know, fighting for middle of the top 10 coming into the pits 2 laps early, we'll see if anyone jumps the next lap rather than going right to, well, yeah, right to the end of lap 12, sorry. So I don't know if Heinrich thinks he has the speed advantage. They've all been doing very similar lap times, but that usually happens when you're in a battle pack like this, as he goes around that very infamous inside of La Source. Obviously we'd see the Formula 1 cars exit stage, well, right there, or left, sorry. But the race down pit lane continues, and it's going to be interesting. The Porsches have been very strong, which we've seen in the last few weeks. A bit more variety this time, but Nathakunion is the highest sitting Porsche in this race. One of the very few Porsches, actually. And he's driving a very, very good defensive race. He's not blocking, but he's just putting his car in the right position, and that's why he's still in front, really. He's got a slight pace advantage, but it's just his positioning of the car that's doing him a world of wonders at the moment.
That it is. It's been brilliant to watch Nathakunion making his way around this circuit, knowing exactly what to do when Jerome Salve makes a move on him. Meanwhile, it looks like Heinrich has made his way out of the pits with the quickest stop so far, 9.1 seconds and 1 minute 10 in the lane. We've seen most pit stops go around 10 seconds to 11 seconds. The slowest pit stop so far has been Cedric Krolchik, but that was 26.4 seconds. I think either he might have had a penalty or some damage to repair along the way. So that's the state of things for now. As the track is really getting dark now, the drivers are going to have to rely more and more on their headlights to light the way ahead. And I reckon we're going to be in complete darkness by the end of this as Hugo Molina, no, sorry, that's Maxime Tillineuve, making his way into the pits, just nailing that pit entry, which is lovely to see. So He actually takes the pit limiter off there on that car. I saw the front headlights flashing alternately, which is a sign that the pit limiter is on in the Ford, but he's taken it off there just to gain an extra couple of kilometers an hour in speed down the pits, which is going to help him. He's not exceeding it to the point that iRacing would give him a penalty, but it's you know, just that little bit of extra speed which will decrease his time in this very long pit lane. Andre Heinrich was one of the Mercedes there behind the likes of Sasha Nathakunion. Let's see where Maxime Tillineuve comes out relative to him. Through Blanchimont he goes. Tillineuve just making his way into his box now, so pit stop time of about 9 to 10 seconds is what he's going to be aiming for at the moment. Heinrich out of the bus stop chicane.
It's possibly going to be close. I'm trouble finding people at the moment. He's coming out of the pits now up that 31-story climb that we call Radion after Eau Rouge. I think the gap's going to be long enough. Maybe that taking of the, like, removing the pit limiter is the trick, because he gained a substantial amount of time. He's coming, well, to the end of Sector 1, start of Sector 2 now, and Heinrich has just come under the gantry, so that's a massive gain through the pit stop.
It is indeed, and Tillineuve, before the stops, we're hearing the gap between these guys was about 4 seconds. So yeah, Tillineuve has gained a ton of time here. They got the same lane transit time, Tillineuve and Heinrich, but Maxime was 0.6 faster in the lane. 9 seconds is his stop time. That's the quickest stop we've seen so far. Molina versus Brobel now in 3rd and 4th with Tillineuve pitting. Now, these guys are going to have to make a decision pretty soon on whether or not they're going to cover him, and it looked for a moment like Brobel was going to make his way in, but does not. But up the front, looks like Ben Cornette in 2nd place has decided to make his way into the lane. Let's see how quick of a stop this is in his fight with Fabio Unvadrus.
Yeah, now the pits are starting to get a bit busy. We see Nathakunion, Jerome Suave, Stefan Kruzman, Jean-Philippe Metzger. Off the field is starting to pit now, so very, very busy lane. Thankfully, we don't have pit crews that can, you know, get in the way. It's all automated with our fancy technology, so it all comes down to the driver and their ability to get the car square in the box and get their pit stops done. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 14 drivers in the pits at the moment, so
wow,
more than half the field, or more than half of the runners are in the pits at the moment. I think we've had 4 or 5 that have pitted so far, so it's going to be a very busy lap. Everyone exiting.
Yes, indeed. There's a couple of positions being changed there as Maxime Tillineuve out on track makes his way on through down to Radion and Eau Rouge there on the right-hand side of the screen. He beats Nathakunion. That is to be expected. It looks like Ben Cornette leading the charge there with a 9.5 second stop. With 3 seconds between himself and Tillineuve, which is round about the gap that we saw before. I think Tillineuve again has gained a bit there in the pit stop cycle. Andre Heinrich, and this is one of the places where the endurance pits can really screw you over, because your run down the Kemmel straight is nowhere near as fast as it is on a racing lap, and so Andre Heinrich has managed to move his way past Jerome Saul finally.
Yeah, that, what was that, 2 laps? 2 laps extra of a little bit of clean air has played perfectly into Heinrich's favour. He got the long run out of La Source, flat up Radion, rather than coming off of the pit lane at 60 and having to make up the time. And that's the beauty of the Spa pit lane, is it is so long, but the exit brings up these awesome battles when you have like passes for position, almost like Formula 1 in the pits, but in a different sense, and it's very exciting to see.
It is indeed. We focus on Cornette at the moment because the remainder of our top runners, minus Mustafa Mezraoui, or Mezraoui making his way into the pits at the moment, Andrew Charles now the only driver yet to come into the pits, and it looks like he is, so the field has been cleansed. So Unvadrus now into the lane. Cornet really stands to gain here if he can nail this part of the lap, and if Unvadrus makes a mistake in the box. You see the time delta ticking down gradually there as Cornet makes his way into the bus stop chicane. Nice and smooth for the veteran sim racer for Team Redline. Coming to the end of the lap, Unvadrus has made his way into the box now. And Unvadrus, by virtue of being pole, he has the final pit stall. So he's got a pretty clear run out of the pits here, and he is away. Looks to me like Cornet might not be able to get him here.
No, as we see Cornet just coming up Eau Rouge now, not quite enough. The speed difference between pit exit and the racing line is big, but I don't quite think that it's 2.5 seconds big. So he might get that down to 2 seconds by the braking zone, but not quite enough, unfortunately, for Cornet this time around. But still, we have, what do we have? 8.5 minutes to go, so there's still plenty of time for an overtake. But we'll see how the fuel difference in the tyre wear has influenced that.
We shall. And it looks to me like Bernardo Faria has really jumped Jerome Salve and Andre Heinrich in the pit stop cycle. And Heinrich and Salve battling very hard, as you can see on screen, down into second gear, into first actually for Bruxelles, trying to get the maximum exit possible using the higher bit of the rev range on that powerful, torquey Mercedes engine. But yeah, that's really split the third place battle, and it seems that Bernardo Faria has given himself an excellent run. Jerome Salve will no longer be battling with Maxime Tillineuve there, because Maxime is, with having a relatively early pit stop for the top of the field, managed to put himself still squarely in third place overall. But now he's got some different drivers to battle with. He was fighting with Hugo Molina before, but Didier Brobel has made his way past and in the pit cycle, and now BMW onto the back of the Ford.
Yeah, massive shake-up through the pit stops around here. My timing is delaying a little bit, which is making it a little bit confusing, but the battle for fifth is still as exciting as ever. I apologize, no, that's the battle for third place, sorry. It's, yeah, they have not changed perhaps very much at all. Might be different drivers, but the pressure is still on as we head up, down Eau Rouge and up Raidillon on lap 15. We have probably 3 laps to go at this pace, so very much into the dark now as the headlights illuminate the long wide Kemmel Straight into La Source. Plenty of gap for Tillineuve, into the chicane, and for Molina in front of Grobel.
There's been a problem for Andy Kramer as Nathacunion gets past Faria there, back into 6th place. This is a great battle between these two. Nathacunion versus a Mercedes once again. I was going to say there's been a problem for Andy Kramer. He's had a bit of a spin on the exit of Blanchimont. Here he is. And when you see this incident, probably have your heart in your mouth a little bit, because he has got a long line of cars behind him. And watch this, he tips it in, the rear gets away from him slightly, he tries to correct it, but then the car comes back on him and he slides right across the racing line in front of one of the BMWs. That was very close to a major incident, and Kramer getting onto his lid, but sticking the landing back on all 4 wheels. He is now in the pits to get that damage repaired.
Yeah, a lot of people have been calling the Lamborghini the Italian Audi, which, if you've been on iRacing for a while, you know that the Audi was and still is very, very sensitive with snap oversteer, and we see that there in the Lamborghini. It's happened a couple of times this week, exiting stage right of Blanchimont. Thankfully, he doesn't hit the wall, and when he comes back across, doesn't hit any other cars, but I think whoever was driving that Mercedes might be coming in very quickly after the race for a change of underpants, because I know I sure would be, because that was, I would like to see the onboard of that, because that was something else. But Nathacunion very defensive into the bus stop with Faria behind him, can't get around the outside. Tries to switch back, but still a little bit too far back.
Yeah, the battle still continuing there for 6th place between Faria and Nathacunion. Faria really closes up into La Source, nearly rear ends the Porsche, but manages to stay out of it as we keep our eyes here on Didier Brobel and Hugo Molina up the hill, and that's a good exit there for Molina. He has managed to get the run, and it looks like he's going to make his way past Brobel here on the outside into Lecombe. Let's cut back to it because we got side by side into the braking zone. Look, it seems that we're having a couple of technical issues with the overlays, which we do apologise for, but that is Molina past, and that is a fantastic move. Oh no!
There's been a massive accident at Lecombe.
Oh. Okay. Going to have to check that out on the Virtual Racing School replay. What on earth has gone on there? That was Bernardo Faria. He was battling with Sasha Nathacunion, and they've actually come together down the Kemmel Straight. Let's have a look at this. So, defensive from Nathacunion, and Faria pulls out, but Nathacunion tries to cover him, doesn't realise he's alongside him.
That's that was a very big hit. I was watching that while you were watching the battle for 3rd, and I just saw it out of the corner of my eye, and very, very big mistake by Nathacunion's driven a very solid race, but that was a massive incident for Faria. No wonder he's towed back to the pits instantly, because that was front engine car head first into the wall. There's no escaping that, but very unfortunate with, well, 1 lap to go really. Man, sorry, that really caught me by surprise. That was a huge incident.
Yeah, it was huge, and I think the reason he also towed was to get out of the way of the Solve and Heinrich battle, because you saw that he was right on the racing line ahead of them. He just managed to escape in time. So that would have given Solve and Heinrich something to think about coming through into the final couple of stages. The battle between Brobel and Molina for 4th and 5th is still not over. Brobel will be hoping to do what Molina did to him on the previous lap here. He has to nail the exit of La Source. On the brakes, into the dip, smooth on the throttle out on the exit, use all of that curb, because you can now with that 4-wheel off-track detection system. These guys have almost no chance of catching back up to Maxime Tillineuve, because he's run an incredible race so far. He's got the pace down in that Ford, and it looks like not much in the way of a draft here for the BMW of Brobel. Molina stays middle of the road, trying to force him to go extreme outside or extreme inside, but Brobel's just not close enough to get the move done. Tries to gain a little bit more there in the braking zone, which you can in these GT3 cars. Very powerful brakes on these things, and they got those big wide slick tyres too. But that battle stays static for now. Brobel's going to be working here on the middle sector as for 9th and 10th, Metzger and Kurtzman. That is Metzger moving past Kurtzman, defending his position into Lecombe and Malmedy. Just nailing that exit, which is what you want to see. But the Lamborghini behind of that's Mustafa Mezraoui, one of the last drivers to pit there, right in the midst of this battle, and trying to get himself into the top 10 here is Mustafa after starting in 23rd. It's been a great run from him. Obviously, he's benefited from the number of drivers that have made mistakes or crashed out so far, but I have to say, props to Mustafa, because this has been a very good run up the field.
Yeah, it has been indeed. It's easy to say, oh, they only gained positions because other people crashed out or disconnected, but he could have easily crashed out or disconnected himself, so position gains are positions gain. And he and Mitch McLeod right behind him are our biggest movers of the race. They're both up 12. So if he can get this position, move up into the top 10, he will be our single biggest mover, which he might know that, he might not know that, depending on what information is on his screen. But even more than that, getting that extra position is into the top 10 is always a good feeling. And he's got the white flag coming up, I believe. So he's got 7 kilometers to do it in, and he's got a nice big draft from the 2 Mercedes in front of him, so gets very deep into the bus stop there. Might be going for a run into La Source, maybe get in front before the Kemmel Straight, but we'll see how this one plays out. It's going to be a very exciting last lap.
It is indeed. Mazraoui, oh yeah, he is having a look there up the inside of La Source, gets up the inside of Stefan Kurtzman. Kurtzman gives him the room on the inside and they run side by side on the exit. Mitchell McLeod sees this happening and thinks, oh, I might be able to get 2 for 1 on the Kimmel straight if these guys go through a Rouge and Radion side by side. Having to yield to Kurtzman there is Mazraoui. But let's see what the draft is like. It's a great exit from the top of the hill and side by side through the actual Kimmel corner itself, that right-hand kink. Let's see what happens up at Le Combe. It's a slight advantage for the Lamborghini coming into the braking zone, but the Mercedes will know that he has the braking power. He elects not to use it on this particular occasion. That is Mazraoui up into the top 10. A fantastic run there from the Lamborghini driver. Can Mitchell McLeod take advantage? We'll have to find out at the end of the middle sector. But I'll tell you what, this guy up here at the front, Fabio Unvadrus, after taking pole with that fantastic lap, he has not looked back from the very start, and key was getting that acceleration at La Source on the formation lap, making sure that Ben Cornette had to fight his way past Hugo Molina on the first lap, and from there it was just a case of keeping the lap times together, keeping it nice and consistent, and bringing it home as it's still battling here in the middle of the field, coming through Pouon, the BMW on the inside. Fantastic run here. Let's see who wins the battle. That's David Kontos, and oh, Marius Holitix ends up making contact with him there. Gets back onto the track, does Kontos, but might have turned in a bit early there, not realizing that Marius was still on the inside, but it's time now for the finish. Looks like Fabio Unvadrus taking victory there with Ben Cornette taking second. Fantastic drive from Unvadrus. Cornette is going to come across the line here in second. Maxime Tillineuve, he's had a bit of a spin at the exit of La Source. Oh no, actually, yes, okay, right, here we go. This is one of the reasons why I'm not a professional commentator yet, because I forgot that the start-finish line was between the bus stop and La Source there at the end of the race. So Tillineuve ends up coming home there in third. A very strong drive as, oh, that might be a Lamborghini slightly running out of fuel there on the start-finish line and making contact after the line. You don't want to see that.
As much as we don't want to see that, it's better than before the line, I guess. I think there was, a bit of checking up out of fuel across the line. Thankfully, it was after the line, but we did have an incident through No Name. One of the Mercedes was just spun it on their own. Lost quite a few positions. That big pack of cars we just saw crossing the line was part of that. No one was hurt in that crash, thankfully, but there was a minor spin, but all drivers finished cleanly, thankfully.
Here's what happened between Marius Horley-Tikas, and there is the car spinning on the exit of No Name. A Lamborghini involved in that as well. That was former 15th place runner there having that issue. And now we can see this run here. Let's have a look at what happened. It was... who was this, I wonder? It's Marcus Merseth, and he's actually lost it on his own coming into No Name. The Lamborghini, I think, got spooked just behind. That was Isidre Mirofere. And, well, both of them losing positions on the last lap through mistakes of their own. Thomas Wick and David Kontos here making their way through, and that is Marius Holitix, who's now on the inside for Fagné. This is what happened between them. Kontos turns in, but there wasn't much space given to him there by Holitikas, and obviously the BMW losing 3 positions in total out of that. Did manage to get it through to the finish though, which is good to see. Either way, we can run our way through the official race results. By nearly 5 seconds over Ben Cornette, Fabio Unvadrus takes victory in his Lamborghini. Maxime Tillineuve, representing the Ford, ends up completing the podium with Hugo Molina in 4th and Didier Brobel rounding out the top 5. Sasha Nathakunion, a little bit of controversy on the way to that 6th place, but by and large, it was a very controlled and Very well run race from Sashai with Jerome Sov and Andre Heinrich coming home in their tight battle just behind in 7th and 8th. Jan-Philippe Metzger and Mustafa Mezraoui making up our top 10. Mezraoui, the biggest mover in the field, 13 positions gained.
Stefan Kurzman and Mitch McLeod round out the top 12. Sion Park, Andrew Charles, Tom Wick ran out the 15. Isray Moreferre, David Contos, Marcus Mysurth after that late spin finishes 18th. Kenny Barrell and Cedric Krolix rounding out the top.
It seems that Marius Holitikis was the Lamborghini we saw running out of fuel there across the line, perhaps. After a 6th place start, he'll certainly be wanting more from that, but he will have to settle for 21st in the end, with Philip Stritter, the last car to finish on the lead lap, coming home in 22nd, and then we get into retirement territory. Bernardo Faria, we saw that incident for him earlier. Andy Kramer losing it by himself, coming through Blanchimont with Myrtle Shahin and Matthew Thomas there coming together at Arouge and Radillon. Shahin was able to continue at least 4 laps down, with Max Rebensteiner and Thomas rounding out the field there in 26th and 27th. Well, that is going to be Spa done, but next race we move on, and what a track we're making our way to here. Grand Prix layout of Nürburgring, and that's going to be a fun ride in these cars. The Grand Prix circuit at the Nürburgring has been around since the early 1980s, and it always provides fantastic racing, especially with that opening sequence of turns, Bradley.
Yeah, Nürburgring is such an iconic circuit, much like Spa itself. Always draws pretty good crowds. It's a rather bumpy circuit, I find at least. But it always provides good racing. Big difference in corner styles. Some are very banked, some are off camber. We've got the very slow chicane because we'll be using the Grand Prix layout, but I'm sure it'll provide just as good racing as we've seen in the last 5 weeks, and I'm very excited.
As am I. Well, we hope that you'll be able to join us next Saturday night for VRS GT Sprint at the Nürburgring. It was a great race at Spa. Fabio and Vudrus putting in a masterclass of a drive here tonight. Will we see him next week, and will we be able to see him take that victory again? The GT teams and drivers will be preparing for the Spa 24 as we speak. That's going off in an hour's time. So let's see how the world's sim racers do around the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps over the next day. I'm Rhys Gardner. Bradley Wingard has been with me in the commentary box tonight. Jay Kennedy on production. You can join us in an hour at SimSpeed TV, because we are going to be following a GT team through the Spa 24 hour and bringing their story to you. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you stay tuned. Other than that, big thanks to our sponsor, Virtual Racing School, for this series, and we will see you next time.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to him! Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?